So when I say stick to what you know and understand, this is a very important concept that if you take advantage of staying in your vertical, staying in your niche, the likelihood of your success will be so much better.
Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we feature top leaders on how they measure success in their business and life. Now, let's learn from their experiences.
Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where I talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. I'm very excited today to have here Stephen Pope, better known as my Amazon guy. He has an agency with $20 million plus in annual revenue, 400 active brands. He's the best-selling author with his book, Amazon Selling Tips. He not only owns Mag, but also my refund guy, my warehouse guy for Amazon Bride. Basically, this guy's everywhere. I remember looking at him. He's one of the few people I didn't have a prep podcast with because it was like, okay, I get it. He is all over the place. Stephen, welcome to the Measure Success podcast today.
Thanks for having me on, Carl.
Absolutely. Okay, so for those who don't know you, and of course, I just a little bio, what do you do?
Well, I help Amazon brands grow their businesses on Amazon. And there's a lot of native-born Amazon brands that you've never heard of, that have never been in Walmart, they've never been in a retail store, but they get their start on Amazon. And it's a magical place because it's the greatest wealth transfer in my entire lifetime. You'll never hear about a Walmart native-born brand. They don't exist, right? Walmart cheats the system. It's not really a marketplace. It's a retailer that happens to allow a few people to sell a couple of items on its platform at walmart.com. But Amazon's amazing because in 6 weeks, you can launch a brand new brand and be hitting 40, 50, sometimes 100K a month in revenue. And that's just been an addiction for me for the past 11 years.
How did you get into this? I mean, what created your impetus that you're going to become the Amazon guy?
Well, I used to be a TV reporter, and then there was a coming of age moment for me. I was in Wisconsin, biggest blizzard in the decade. I went on the air at 10 o'clock at night, and the cameraman gave me the signal, but the blizzard was going down so much I missed the signal. So I sat on state television looking like an idiot for 30 seconds. And I was miserable. My hair froze over. I had hair at the time. And I just was like, I'd rather be at home in my pajamas at 10 o'clock at night right now. And I actively worked. It took me a couple of years, but it took, I looked for a way to get out of that. And then I broke into e-commerce, and I've been doing that ever since. So along the way, I became an educator. And so I like to say I'm a TV reporter turned marketing educator. And I share all of my trade secrets. I post every thought I ever have on the internet. A lot of people are probably tired of hearing from me because of that. I've gone viral on Reddit's LinkedIn lunatics because I've said funny things, so it's been a fun journey. And I just, my why, or like why I do all of this is because I want to level up life. I want to bring prosperity and accelerate that to the rest of the world. And I found that the more I teach, the more I share, the faster I help the entire world do exactly that.
I love how you talk about this because it is what what Bezos has ultimately created, right, through this tool it's the ultimate game changer for so many entrepreneurs, right, that would be stuck in traditional hell, so to speak, and trying to sell through other distributors and to try to sell through other pieces. But this is actually something where, as you said, anybody, if they have a quality product, has the ability to get out there. But Stephen, you know better than I do, it's not just a quality product. There's a lot of great quality products that never get sold. So what's the key differentiator that you're able to actually not only get something on Amazon, but have something seen on Amazon that somebody's going to actually like and buy?
It's marketing. Anything that generates traffic and improves conversion rates. So under traffic, you've got CTR, click-through rate, which is the thing I'm talking incessantly about of late because I think it's the easiest. Pay-per-click advertising and search engine optimization. So those are the traffic generators. On the conversion side, you have design, merchandising, and catalog troubleshooting. A lot of times when I talk to people who are new Amazon sellers, they're like, man, buying something on Amazon is amazing. I click button, and then all of a sudden it's at my house in 2 days. And God bless the trash man that takes away all my brown Amazon happy face boxes. Right. And that's like the consumer experience. The seller experience, though, is not anything like that. In fact, it's quite difficult. It's not passive income. It's not like you could just open up a drop shipping company on Amazon and print money and buy a Lambo. But that is what you will often see when you go on YouTube looking and listening to the gurus. So I take a little bit of a different tact. I think it's the greatest wealth transfer in my lifetime. At the same time, I think it's incredibly difficult. And so I like to talk about those difficulties to warn people how to avoid those mistakes and do things that are sustainable. So, if I've been reading a ton of Warren Buffett books. I don't actually like the guy, but everybody keeps talking about his techniques, and I'm like, frick, I'll go read all the books. You guys shut up and leave me alone. So I'm in Charlie Munger's Poor Man's Almanac right now, and it talks about being boring and buying a couple of things and holding on to them forever and whatever. And you avoid lots of broker fees and screw diversifying, stuff like that. Anyway, long story short, I believe that if you stick to what you know as an Amazon seller, as a sourcing person, as a logistical nature, that you're going to do a lot better in life. So what I mean by that is I was a chess player, even a chess prodigy of sorts growing up. I played in all the chess national circuit tournaments. I played in the U.S. Open when I was in high school. I have played at some of the highest levels of competition. If I were to sell chess sets on Amazon right now, I would have a huge advantage. Now, I'm not going to be selling chess sets. I missed the craze with Queen's Gambit, right? Which is another topic of conversation. You don't want to necessarily just follow the trends, because then if you do, when the trend dies, you're sticking on a ton of dumped cash, right? You got a ton of inventory you can't do anything with. But I'm the guy who would understand why you would have a vinyl board, why you would have algebraic notation, why pieces that are triple weighted are more attractive to the consumer, why a certain type of clock is better under certain circumstances, and all of those things. I understand all those because I lived it. I've put my 10,000 hours into the game of chess. Now, if I were to go and try and sell some, I don't know, bamboo dental floss, the chances of me succeeding in that vertical are close to zero. Why? Because I'm not a dentist. I don't understand bamboo. I don't even know where you would source bamboo. Like, I don't know anything about floss other than the fact that I've used floss every day of my life. That's it, though. So when I say stick to what you know and understand, this is a very important concept, that if you take advantage of staying in your vertical, staying in your niche, the likelihood of your success will be so much better. So typically, an Amazon seller who's really good at sourcing, or he's an engineer, or he's an inventor, they know how to make a quality product, but they have no idea how to get somebody to buy it. They team up with a guy like me. I'm a marketer. I help people find it. And that's the story.
Okay, so that is first of all, I love the build up, how to get there, and it's that key other piece around it, right? Once again, is you have to become known, you have to be seen. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly what you're saying, is that whomever the seller is, so to speak, right? Whatever product they have, they should know what they have. Is that fair enough?
Absolutely. If you don't understand your product, you're going to get crushed. You won't have a why. You won't have a reason to get up in the morning, and you're going to end up getting beat by the Chinese. You're going to get crushed by the Amazon fees, and you're going to get frustrated by the selling process, because I'm here to tell you it is very frustrating to sell on Amazon.
So, which goes to then the next point, which is, if it's so frustrating to do it, why should we do it?
Because it's worth it. There is no other platform in the entire world that you can launch a brand fully and see $40,000, $50,000 a month in sales by day 90, right? You can't even do a Kickstarter that's successful routinely. Like, thousands of people are pulling this off. So the platform has the power, right? Now, it may surprise you to know this, but 83% of US households are Prime members. That's an insane statistic. Like, name another program in the world that has 83% participation. Doesn't exist, right? So Amazon is a monopoly. It owns half of the economy. It owns the entire marketplace apparatus, right? And so all of these things make it so important to be on Amazon. If you're in e-commerce and you're not on Amazon, you're irrelevant. Even Nike, who was so frustrated with all the problems that they had selling on Amazon, is coming back. And it was an inevitable thing. Nike hasn't grown sales in 3 years since the day they left Amazon. In fact, they might even be shrinking. So now they're coming back because when you let somebody else sell your goods, what happens? Consumer experience sucks, right? The customer experience goes down. So this is why you have to be selling on Amazon. It is the 800-pound gorilla. Is it fun to play with the 800-pound gorilla? No. Could he ragdoll you at any moment in time? Yes. Has it happened to me? You betcha. In fact, I lost $250,000 selling tumblers on Amazon because last Black Friday, they nuked my entire category. Not just me, but the whole category, just gone. They're like, no parody tumblers anymore on Amazon. You're out. Never once had an IP infringement or anything like that. Just Amazon one day said, F you, Stephen Poe. So I've experienced it, but I've also made millions of dollars selling on Amazon. And even though, that was a very difficult time in my view of Amazon's hostility, I still net positive, so overwhelming. I can't walk away, So
That is a incredible. I hear about that often, right? In all of the major social platforms. So all of a sudden, you're gone, right? Your algorithm, so to speak, has been killed. How do you? So in that case, right there, you have all those tumblers. Is it literally you have no chance of reselling them?
I decided to sell my brand over this. It was so frustrating for me. I was like, you know what? I don't even make money in comparison. Like, I make, a couple $100,000 a year on my Amazon brand in comparison to my agency that I'm making millions of dollars on. So it was just a distraction at that point. So I ended up putting it on the market. We had an offer, and at the last second, my business partner bought it from me. And he's like, you know what, your dream. My why at the time was I was making these brands to give to my kids, right? So I had Age of Sage, put my daughter on the main logo. Her name is Sage. She's 5 years old, and someday I was going to give it over to her, right? It was a very powerful why. But I came to terms with the fact, you know what? There's so many things I could give to my kids someday. I'll find something else. And then my business partner was so bought into my why. He's like, you know what? I'll buy it from you, and then I will make it happen. I will still get these to your kids someday. And I was like, are you serious? I can't believe you. But I needed to go focus on my agency and focus on other businesses because of it. And so it was the right decision for every party involved. But that kind of goes back to why a why statement is so important, right? Like if you don't have a why, when it gets tough, you're going to bail so fast, right? Like you're just going to bail. And even if your why is powerful, you might bail anyway. Like it's got to be really powerful.
We were talking, and I will perhaps bring this up as it was really interesting. Steve has mentioned before we got started of we didn't care at all about YouTube and our own 40 strategy and our new $4 million strategies podcast we had released. But we decided to all of a sudden, and we actually had some good success. We went from, this is all relative, right, to what we were doing, but we went from under 100 subscribers to over 2,000 in 3 weeks, which isn't that bad.
That's pretty dang good. I only gain about 800 subscribers a month for perspective, and I've been hamming it.
Thank you. So we went through that, and bang, it disappeared. All of our videos except for our shorts gone. And I had this, and I literally, Stephen, I was getting ready on the 4th of July to release this big bang. Hey, we've made it. We've done this amazing thing on YouTube. And then they were gone. It's like this ultimate humble pie.
Welcome to cancel culture. Welcome to platforms that could decide, you know what, you used a certain word and the algorithm doesn't like it, you're gone. This happens on Amazon too, by the way. And so I hate that we live in that culture. Bring me back to the 2005 era of the internet any day. I much preferred when it was not controlled media, so to speak. So I can't believe you went through that. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel yet?
The good news is we didn't lose our subscribers, and actually I'm looking at this as a positive. We have a lot more subscribers to re-release everything that we have.
There you go. Fresh content.
And yeah. So it's fresh content. And the other part behind it is, honestly, we were learning. I mean, we didn't have great thumbnails. We didn't have great keywords. We were learning on the fly in a very quick period of time because it was a new pivot. It was like, we're really an educational platform. Let's get it out there. Let's try something new, a daily podcast instead of weekly podcast. We crushed it. But then, as you said, something happened. Don't know exactly what happened. Google won't tell us what happened. YouTube won't tell us what happened, which of course, same company. And here we are. But we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna take it as an opportunity, re-release. Let's go it again, and hopefully we can 10x it from that point forward.
I think you're going to succeed. You have a why, right? Like what's your why?
It's the key behind it. Well, there's a lot of why behind the whys, but my key why is we want to positively impact 10,000 organizations to achieve what they want to accomplish, to reach their dreams. And so why I started this to begin with was to give 40 strategy. It's not about myself. It's to help give behind it. So if I get some egg on my face from time to time, I'm going to be fine with that if we can help reach the outcome towards our organizations. But what I really love, though, what I really, really love, Stephen, is to help give entrepreneurs freedom, right? You know this because of how hard you worked through your career. I know this from my own career, the entrepreneurs that we work with. If you don't have freedom, you don't have anything.
Yeah. What's the point?
Yeah. And so a big part of this whole, the irony behind $4 million risk strategies, $4 million strategies is it's about reducing risk so you can maximize your exit strategy or become a shareholder of a business that's running for you. That was the whole purpose of what we were trying to do. And it's like, to me, it's like, what? That got canceled? How can this good news be canceled? But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that don't want you to know that. They like to take advantage of the entrepreneur and buy things on the cheap so this could sell it for more. I mean, this is buying, selling, this is demand. So anyways, our passion is to help make sure that entrepreneurs have the freedom that they should have. And our goal ultimately is to get to 10,000 that we can track, know, and identify through that process. But and then we give, but that's a side comment of what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
What's that?
Good why. I like it.
Thank you. All right, so Stephen, let's keep moving forward here. So we'll do one of our traditional questions that, of course, we'll call the Measure Success podcasts. Today, in your business, how are you measuring success?
Top line and bottom line, definitely. I think that the absence of growth is death. And if both of my top line and my bottom line aren't growing, I get uncomfortable, right? Like I feel like I'm literally decaying. And so like in my personal life, that's why my why statement starts with leveling up. Because if I don't feel like I'm constantly leveling up, I love video games, by the way. I played all kinds of video games growing up. I was a World of Warcraft addict. South Park episode 101 right there. Dad would come in, see me playing World of Warcraft at all times and be like, dude, what's going to happen in your life? Are you sure it's going to be good? I'd be like, no, Dad, I promise you, this is going to help me in business someday. I'm learning how an economy works. I use technology to transfer funds through the auction house, and I control the entire server's economy. Like I'm the number one economy controller. Like, and this is way more educational than college. College, in fact, taught me nothing. And at the time, my dad's like, yeah, okay, son, sure. Fast forward 15 years, and he's like, I get it now. Like he's like, I get it now. I see it. I see the vision. And that's a really good summary, not only of family dynamics, but also of what it's like to be a visionary, right? So I can see things into the future that nobody else can see. And the problem is that I have to somehow convince people to follow my vision, convince people that here's what I see, you can see it too. And most people still don't see it, but they buy in at some point, or they see some success and they tag along, or they coattail, if you will. And that's a lot of entrepreneurs in a nutshell, where they're like, why can't you see what I see? If that resonates with you and you're listening to this, you are not alone. You have to master the skill of translating your vision into specific actionable items. And sometimes that requires a translator. Sometimes you have to hire a translator to take your vision and integrate it into your organization, a la traction, a la visionary integrator relationships. So I feel for that. That's been my journey, and that's, but back to tying to your question, I feel like if my top line and or my bottom line aren't growing, then I'm decaying. And that's what's most important to me.
I think I really like you talking about that. And interestingly enough, as we've now seen inflation being real as opposed to being this kind of hidden number that we didn't even pay attention to prior to 2020. um, if you aren't even growing above inflation, I mean, talking like 10%, you're also falling behind, right?
Yes.
Because the real value of money is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we're not even going to go into Bitcoin and things of that nature. Stop it, right? The key is if your US dollars or whatever currency you're trading in is not growing above inflation, you are losing real nominal value on your ability to buy goods and purchases. To purchase goods and services. That's not a good thing. And so when I work with clients, Stephen, and they're like, "Oh, I want to grow 10% this year." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you want to grow? You mean you want to be flat?"
You want to be static. Yeah.
Right. It's crazy. And so it's like the new growth, what you said there is not just not growing, it's like growing beyond inflation, right? You have to grow faster than that and going through that process. So, okay, that's a great answer you had there. So let's go to the next part. I'm kind of curious for you because you have a lot going on. You have a lot of business we haven't even touched on that you do. That's managing. You have a lot of hats you're wearing. What type of habits are you doing on a consistent basis so you are bringing your best every single day?
So I believe in prosperity in all things. And I think a lot of people get lost in they're like, oh, I got to focus on one thing at a time. And there's some truth to the fact you can't multitask, but I still believe you can have it all. Like I have 5 kids, 8 and under. I have a beautiful family, a beautiful house, a beautiful business. I'm spiritual and go to church on Sundays. I'm physically active. So this morning I went on a 3 mile hike, then I swam, then I did 20 pull-ups, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, whatever, and then did a second set of them again. So I do think it's possible to have it all. I think it's possible to be prosperous in all ways. Does that mean they're all equally balanced? No, not necessarily. But for me, they're always leveling up. And as long as they're always leveling up, I feel like that's prosperity. They're always growing. So I'm always pushing myself on every single one of these measures, if you will. Is there time to take a break? Yes. Took the family to the Bahamas last month. Can I go out and do some crazy adventures? Yes. I've got a giant hike planned to go, in one of the hardest hikes in the world next month. Right. So there's all kinds of things that I have on my agenda that I'm constantly checking off or reevaluating. But probably on a more unique standpoint, probably something you may not hear from a lot of people you interview. Every morning, I have a first thought of the day. And no matter what that first thought is, I always act on it. Might be call a certain person, might be go work on a certain task. But I'm a very avid dreamer. Overnight, I am processing business stuff constantly. So, whatever I first think about in that beginning of the day, I make sure I put a tremendous amount of effort to go accomplish that. And that has never let me down. It's never let me. Sometimes I'll call people and be like, serendipitous, right? Like some sort of connection. They're part of the mastermind. 20-hour book if you go read about masterminds. But I believe that I am literally connected at the atom level to some people in my life, and so I have to act on those promptings. So that's what I do. That's how I function. But but no matter what I'm doing, I'm always trying to level up and make things more prosperous.
Love that. Great answer. I love it how the abundance of all things, that is a brilliant prospect. But what was interesting is prior to our conversation, prior to this recording that we're having today, you've been, I love it how you said you've been reading, and in particular, you talked about Never Enough. And,
New
and, and
book.
that's this really, yeah, this fascinating thing, right? And that's part of what I love about the Measure Success podcast is there's a difference between those quote unquote in their eyes have made it to a certain amount of wealth where they technically by definition don't have to work again a day of their life. And the answer to those who have made it there and those who haven't on this next question is almost always significantly different. And you fortunately have been able to create prosperity. What you described, not every person is able to do what you just described. Have the freedom to be able to go out and hike, have the freedom to go out and exercise, have the freedom to take out your family to the Bahamas, right? That's not something that everybody gets to do. So I'm curious for you today, how are you measuring success in your personal life?
It's the same apparatus, right? Like I feel like if I can bring a leveling up game to every aspect of my life, then I'm very satisfied with that. So on a Tuesday, it might mean teaching my kids how to swim, And on a Wednesday, that might mean how many times can I throw my 3-year-old up in the air and catch him successfully? Um, on a Thursday, it might mean going to the church and doing Boy Scouts. So no matter what I'm touching, I'm always thinking like, how can I go into this and make it one step better? Right? Constantly always leveling everything up. And as I look at the books behind you and some of the things that have probably affected you, at the top left, you have extreme ownership. That's literally a manager value at my company. Like I make sure that people are always taking ownership of what they work uh, around me, and that's because I've lived extreme ownership my whole life. It's what's brought me success. In the top right, you got from good to great and BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. One of the biggest goals that I ever did as a business was hire 100 interns in 30 days. I had just finished the Good to Great book. I was looking at my business. It was growing faster than I could operate it. And I said, this is not sustainable. So I said, I gotta change something. So I came up with this idea. I was going to hire 100 interns in 30 days. And I went to my HR team on a Monday and I said, hey guys, we're going to hire 100 interns in 30 days. Gave them a big speech, told them my vision, got off the call, and 24 hours passed and literally nothing happened. And I call another impromptu meeting on a Tuesday. And I'm like, hey guys, hey, remember that talk we had yesterday? You're one day down. You got 29 days left. Tell me what you did yesterday. And basically, all the routines hadn't been broken yet. So I said, guys, no, seriously, this is super important. You need to send out internship offers this week. Another 24 hours go by. I didn't see anything yet. I was like, guys, I don't understand this. Wednesday, called another impromptu meeting. Everybody, heads are gonna roll like tomorrow if you guys don't take action today. This is super important. This is a big, hairy, audacious goal. You must get part of this vision. And I kid you not, by 5 o'clock that day, 22 offers went out. And this is the sort of thing that I do in my personal life as well. And it drives my kids crazy. It drives my wife crazy. But those kind of big, hairy, audacious goals that I do in business are also applicable to my personal life. And I'm always trying to tackle those hard things. But I look forward to that kind of prosperous growth in every element. So I'm always pushing my kids to do things that are hard, pushing my wife to do things that are hard. She's a stay-at-home mom with 5 kids. That's hard enough alone. Let's be fair. But I also am like, hey, honey, did you find time to work out for an hour today? Did you do all these hard things that need to get done and personally develop? I measure my success by their success as well today.
Stephen, I just want to let you know your courage to just do what you said. I had 4 kids and have 4 kids, and but they're not young. But I remember coming home when we had several under the age, young age, and if I would have said what you just said, I'm not sure if I would be talking on this podcast today. So, so that's
It,
awesome.
it, it, it
Uh,
takes courage, right? So my wife, I convinced her to start writing about what it's like to be married to me on LinkedIn. And she's like, nobody's going to care about a stay-at-home wife. And I'm like, you just wait. You just wait. Last Monday, she made a post, 300 likes, 100,000 impressions later. Yeah, people care. They care. The title of that post is, would you marry an unemployed man? I was unemployed when I was dating my wife, and a lot of her family, not all of them, but a lot of them were like, are you sure you want to stick around? This guy may not make it, and she did. She stuck around. I married my wife because she paid a parking ticket. And at the time, that was like a sign from God. I was like, this is a $150 parking ticket. The Baltimore Ravens were having a football game. I told her to park there. It was my fault. I didn't know there was a football game that night. I didn't know she couldn't park there, and she wouldn't let me pay part of the ticket. And I was like, that woman has it together. She takes extreme ownership. I'm attracted to that. Let's get married. And we did. So
wow, that's awesome. That is awesome, and I love it too. Once again, how you I appreciate once again going back to the book you talked about in the past, because there's a couple key parts that people miss. There's a lot of visionaries out there, but and then there's a lot of people who get things done, but there's very few people who tie them together, right? Dream and do. It's interesting. That's part of literally what our business is about is dreaming the doing, because I can't stand a strategic plan that gets drafted and nothing gets done.
there's no point to that. The action dictates the strategy. There's no point to having a plan if you don't execute it. It's completely useless.
That's right. Yeah. But it happens so often.
but I just need to perfect this for the next 3 years before I do anything with it. And then it'll be irrelevant by then. And then 17 different competitors have already done it, you know?
That's right. Yeah.
I started my agency in under 48 hours. Like I got laid off from a company that sold lights. They gave me a 3-month severance. A lot of people would have gone on vacation. I didn't. I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start some consulting. And I made a LinkedIn post. Within 48 hours, I signed my first MRR deal of my life, you know, a monthly commitment. That client 6.5 years later is still with me.
Wow.
You know, and I'm just super proud about that on its own. But, you know, I think the action dictates the strategy. Like a lot of people could have spent a year trying to figure out how to bake or create an agency. And I just went and freaking did it, you know, and you don't have to wait around to do these things. And it's not like I didn't know what I was doing. I had worked at an agency before. I had done side hustle consulting with 26 clients before I went full time on it. Right. But when the moment came, I was ready. Right. I didn't have to make a formal plan at that point.
That's right. That's right. No, love it. I absolutely love it. All right, Stephen, how can people connect and learn more about what you do?
So myamazonguy.com. Check us out over on YouTube as well. We've published more than 2,000 videos, many of these AMA style, where you can come in and ask us live questions. And I also hang out on LinkedIn. So if you add me as a connection, I'll respond to you there. And if you're an Amazon seller or an entrepreneur trying to start, I hope you guys check us out over at myamazonguy.com and contact us.
That is absolutely perfect. Stephen, thank you so much for being a guest on the Measure Success podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
And to everyone else who's listening, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I encourage you to like, subscribe on the particular podcast platform that you're on. Very much appreciate it. As we always like to say, wishing you the very best at measuring your success. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Measure Success podcast. We'll see you again next time to learn from the best. Remember to subscribe now to get future episodes.